Good morning, good afternoon, RHD. Welcome to the COVID-19 Town Hall. We're going to get started now. So David, if you could take off the agenda, although I will be asking you to put it back on after Marco makes his opening remarks. Marco.
Thank you, Sherry. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. So good afternoon and almost noon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us. I am Marco Giordano, your CEO, and I'm glad to be here with you all today. As I was preparing my thoughts for today, I couldn't help but think about all the challenges that have been and continue to be in front of us. I think we all have worked through a lot of challenges over the past 18 months, but they just keep on getting thrown at us in many different ways, whether it's Mother Nature's fury, whether it's our staffing crisis, our continued response and focus on the virus, COVID-19, the gun violence in our cities, the acts of discrimination, again, the list goes on and on. As I reflected on all that is happening around us and all that we are working through, I was reminded of who we are and wanted to remind us all that as we move through these challenges together, let us remember who we are and the proven ability of the RHD community to support one another. Make sure you talk to someone, get the support you need, whatever it looks like, and be kind to each other because you don't always know what the other person is experiencing. So let's remember as we go through this meeting together, as well as we go through our days ahead together, that together we are better. So it's been great to see some of our movement back towards normal, including our services and the creativity at our day programs. I want to give a special thank you and a shout out to our day program staff for your perseverance and commitment. You've moved mountains over the past 18 months for the people that we support and each other. And I appreciate all that you've done to continue to move our services forward as we are exiting the tunnel. So as we continue to move forward together towards that new normal, or back to what we thought and knew was normal, we must do so with caution. And as we do so, we must keep in front of us our primary goal, and that is to keep each other, the people we support, and our families safe and healthy. So I'm going to ask us all to be alert, to be informed, and be safe. Given the variability of the environment we are in, with some people vaccinated, other people not, with some folks wearing masks while others are not, with social distancing becoming inconsistently not required, we must stay alert to the spread and the requirements in our communities and in the work that we do. We must also remain informed about our protocols and other tools that can help mitigate the spread, like the 4 Ws, wash your hands, wear a mask, watch your distance, and wait on gatherings, which continue to be effective in the environment that we're currently working in. In addition, we must remain informed about the vaccine, the science behind it, its efficacy, while also ensuring that our staff and the folks that we support have access to it. And finally, we must continue to do what we can to keep each other, the people we support, our families safe and healthy, whether you're vaccinated or not. At RHD, our foundational value of respect for the dignity and worth of each individual must be the foundation to how we proceed together at this time. This value is in action when we continue to wear masks to support those that are most vulnerable to the virus, to support those that are not eligible or unable to get the vaccine at this time, to support those that remain unvaccinated, or simply because the people we are with are doing so. i.e. the people that we are working with every day, are wearing masks. So join me in being alert, informed, and safe. Because if we do that together, we will continue to respond to the virus in a way that keeps each of us safe and healthy. We will continue to learn and understand more about the virus, the Delta variant, and the impact of the vaccine. Please share any questions you have regarding the virus or the Delta variant in the chat or through the COVID email or through your voice. We will address as many of those questions today as we can, and we will also address questions specifically to the Delta variant at a future meeting when Nina or Rebecca from our health centers are able to join us. And as we've done in the past, and we'll continue to do so, with all the learning that we receive and begin to embrace, we will adjust our response while we also continue to follow CDC guidelines. So thank you again for your unwavering commitment to the people we support and each other. And thank you for your patience as we navigate this new environment together. With that, I'll turn the mic over to Sherry. Again, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Marco. And David, if you could pull up the agenda again real quickly. Just do a quick. So we've had our opening remarks. This is time for housekeeping. So just always a reminder, lots of options for submitting questions, your voice. I think our most popular now before the meeting, COVID-19 inbox, the Zoom chat, our most popular during the meeting. And then there's always the raised hand function, and we can unmute you and you can speak directly. We are going to have an update on the vaccine from Sheena and Sandy. They're going to talk a little bit about obstacles to getting the vaccine and opportunities for homebound folks. Stephanie is going to talk to us about incentives. We'll get a COVID update on the numbers from Brian, and then we'll open it up for Q&A. But again, we'll be looking at the chat. If there are questions we can't answer today, particularly about the variant, we will be asking FPCN to join us to help those be addressed in the future. All right, David, thank you. So let me pass it over to Sheena and Sandy around the vaccine update.
Good morning, good afternoon, and happy Monday, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here once again. It's just me today. Sandy's out today, so I'll be giving the vaccine update. Just want to first make it a point to say, anyone who is experiencing any obstacles, whether it's yourself, it's your consumers, it's your staff at your programs, please reach out to the RHD Vaccine Committee. You can reach out to myself personally or any of the regional representatives, anyone in a leadership position. So please make sure that we're aware of those concerns and can address them in your specific region. So if you're experiencing any obstacles, if your staff, if your consumers, just please let us know. We also want to make sure, we do know that we have some consumers, maybe you have family members who cannot get out to a place to get a vaccine. We know that if you go to any of the national pharmacies, some supermarkets, Walmart, they're available. But if there are people who cannot get out the house, they're homebound, they don't feel comfortable in CrowdJet, please reach out to us. Nationally, there are so many services right now providing homebound vaccines. So they'll come to your home, they'll meet you where you're at to provide you with a vaccine. We want to make sure that we get you that information, those resources, so anyone who wants to be vaccinated, who's eligible, is able to get the vaccine. And on another note, starting this week, we will have some weekly information and facts about COVID and the vaccine that'll be emailed out to everyone nationally. Please check those emails. They're short and sweet, nothing too long. And it's advantageous to check them because at the end of the month, we may have some prizes for those who can tell us some information, give us the facts back. So be on the lookout for that. I think that Sherry already mentioned that any questions you have about vaccines, the variants, anything, please ask them in all the methods, reach out to me. We want to answer them. And at our next meeting, we will have FPCN here to provide a presentation about the Delta variant and give us some really important information and education around that. Last thing I'm going to say, we want to make sure that obviously this meeting, this forum doesn't capture all of our employees at RHD. So we want to make sure that the information is getting out to everyone. So the vaccine committee, myself and the representatives want to start visiting staff meetings. We want to come to speak to your staff, make our presence known. Sometimes people are more comfortable or more of a smaller basis asking questions. So as representatives from the vaccine committee in your region or area may start reaching out to the division leadership to get the information for UDs, just reach back out to them and let them know a good time for them to come to engage with staff at your program. And that's all I have. I think I'm going to turn it over to Stephanie.
Yes, Stephanie.
Hello, everybody. I hope everybody had a refreshing weekend. I'm just going to take a couple of minutes to talk about the vaccine and incentives. So the last town hall we had, a question was raised about whether RHG would be offering incentives. I think we may have had a couple people giving answers, and I'll put it on my own self that I wasn't able to hear, but I wanted to share with you that we have decided to dedicate our time, our efforts, and our resources in educating about the vaccine as well as helping with availability. So RHD as a company will not specifically be offering incentives. Now, there are a lot of incentives already out there if that is something that you're interested in. And even though she just gave a plug to herself, I'm going to give her another plug, and not the maybe not the kind she wants, and the kind of plug she wants, but I encourage you to reach out to Sheena. She has coordinated resources, information, can help you find out how to get a vaccine no matter what your situation is. She is leading a great team, and that effort is full of resources. So if anyone has any other questions about incentives and the decision that the company has made not to offer them, you can feel free to send them this way. But if you are trying to get a vaccine, I encourage you to take advantage of the mighty leadership of Sheena McClinton. Lots of resources, endless means and methods to get a vaccine. And so any other questions about the incentive, please let me know. And thanks, Sheena, for everything you're doing. Appreciate it so much.
Thank you, Stephanie. And then Brian, I see you over there.
I am over here. Thank you, Sherry. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm here to share the COVID reporting numbers. And currently, we have 2,759 reports since last March of 2020. Of those reports, we have 788 confirmed cases, 1,475 negative cases, 75 suspected, and 410 possible exposures. We do have 10 unknowns in there as well, and those unknowns, we are just not able to classify them for a number of various reasons. So what I'm going to do now is, like we normally do, I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to put up the chart that we've been keeping, and you're going to be able to see what we're seeing. So what you're looking at here is a pretty dramatic decrease in the amount of reports that we've gotten. You can see since mid-May, it is very dramatic. We've received so few reports, but I can point out that last week, the week ending the 17th, we did see a bump in the number of reports we've received, and that seems to coincide with the July 4th holiday. So you're looking at within 14 days of the 4th of July, we started seeing reports come in again, 16 to be precise, and 3 of them were for confirmed cases of COVID. So, that's been typical of what we've seen over the course of the pandemic, is usually around those gathering type of holidays. holidays, we see that followed up with a bump in reporting. And this really seems to be no different. Maybe not as many reports, but still that bump in reporting as opposed to what we've seen over the last few weeks. So from a national perspective, I'm sure anybody who's watching the news, and it's already been mentioned a few times, the Delta variant continues to spread among the unvaccinated. And usually states with the lowest vaccination rates are being especially hard hit. So, that is what we're seeing from a national perspective. And actually what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share one more thing. And actually, Sherry, I don't know if I saw this on our, on our thing here, but I do just want to share quickly a slide from our COVID guidelines, and it's the COVID reporting guidelines. And this is page 43 of the guidelines. And I just want to throw out a quick reminder as far as these go. So we still continue to report the confirmed cases of COVID, but we still need to report those suspected and possible exposures as well, really to make sure that we're keeping an accurate count and making sure that we're being able to look at this corporation-wide. And just a quick reminder of the definitions. The possible exposure is when someone's been in close contact with someone who has confirmed COVID or is displaying COVID-like symptoms. And a suspected case is when it's a case basically when someone is having symptoms of COVID-19 but has not yet been tested and cannot be characterized as confirmed. So we still need to see those reports as well. And the vaccination status really doesn't have an impact on whether or not these reports get filled out, because as we've heard, is that even someone who's been vaccinated can still potentially spread the virus. So we still want to make sure that we are reporting the way that we have been throughout the pandemic. And that is it for all I have today, Sherry. I'm not sure who's following me, so I'm going to throw this back to you, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brian. We have a short agenda today, so we are going to open it up for Q&A. I am going to start with Sarah because I know that she has already gotten some questions prior to us starting the meeting today. And I don't think I've seen any in the chat yet. So Sarah, if you could kick us off with the Q&A.
Sure. So the first question is, how is RHD addressing the increase in rates of COVID-19 with the Delta variant? Many age groups are still not eligible for vaccinations. Employees have families that they want to protect as well. For employees that can do their jobs 100% remotely, can they continue to do so until their children are eligible to be vaccinated early next year?
So Sarah, there was a lot in that one question. I didn't realize that was all one. I'm wondering if you want to just maybe read that again, so that we can break out all those parts.
Sure. So the first one was, how is RHD addressing the increase in rates of COVID-19 with the Delta variant?
I'll grab onto this that question, Sarah. It's a great question. I appreciate who asked the question. I think as we are continuing to work through, how we're responding to the virus at hand, recognizing that there has been several different variants along the way. I think our response to the current variants will continue to follow CDC recommendations, as we've always followed CDC recommendations, and our current protocols are designed in a way to ensure that we are following protocols that that protect the most vulnerable folks that we support. So whether that's protocols around wearing masks and or still social distancing, whether that's protocols for those that are vaccinated versus for those folks that are unvaccinated, whether it be staff or consumers. So right now, again, as we are experiencing what the country's experiencing in terms of the rise in cases, we're staying focused on what CDC is, the guidance the CDC is providing, and also asking that our staff follow the protocols that we currently have in place, captured in our protocol document.
Thanks, Marco. I'm going to continue with the series of questions. The next one, so the person pointed out that there are still age groups that are not eligible to be vaccinated. And they specifically asked for folks who are working remotely 100%, if it's possible to continue to do so until their children are eligible to be vaccinated early next year. Not sure who wants to take that.
I
I
guess
can take a piece of it and well, Alicia, I'm sorry, go ahead. If you want to start. Okay, I'll start. I think this is a question to be answered by multiple people. And so just the piece of it that I would say is that we do a lot of different things in a lot of different places. And so part of that would be talking with your supervisor and your service line to see what are the needs of that particular program or service at that time. So I'm not able to give a blanket answer, but would suggest, raising that with your supervisor and service line.
Yeah, Linda, you hit the nail right on the head. I think that the way we've managed throughout the pandemic has been to really be able to assess by department or by function, by program, by service. There's so many nuances to RHD as a whole that some answers cannot just be given blanket across the corporation. I think that sometimes when people ask, they're really kind of thinking of one aspect of RHD, and we're so multifaceted, like a wonderful, beautiful little diamond. We're multifaceted. You turn it one way, you see something different. And so really, truly, the needs of the work, the needs of the corporation, and the needs of the employees within that area are all what kind of factor in. I don't know that we've reached a point where we've said that we are for non-essential positions, where we've said that we have returned anyone fully to their work. I think that there have been programs and or roles and or departments even who've had to have some type of a hybrid model. I do believe that we as an organization, Marco did say last year that we would probably have a hybrid model going forward because much really, as Linda said, does depend on there's a particular area, whether it's a program or a department, so on and so forth. So I again encourage, we can probably resend that survey that we sent last year for people. Maybe there's some new employees or some new managers that don't know we did that, to really help managers use that to document what are their staff's individual needs. So I know that there was a staff readiness a return to work survey that we sent out. Maybe we can reissue that and have people, I'm sure it's probably still on the COVID site, but we can try to reissue that and get that back in circulation so that we have a way of capturing that, not we, but the managers have a way of capturing that so that they can manage that accordingly. But I do think it is important, as Linda said, to make sure that you're speaking with your manager, because there's no way to answer that for every employee, all 4,500 employees across RHD. So.
Thanks, Alicia and Linda. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next question. How is RHD protecting our consumers and participants if it allows employees to be unvaccinated? Employees should be mandated to be vaccinated to protect the vulnerable communities we serve.
So I know that I see Linda came off mute. Go ahead, Linda. Stephanie.
I think we're all wanting to make sure that the right person goes. So, I can join in. Maybe Stephanie can go first, and then if there's any piece I could.
Well,
thank you.
I was going to suggest, so we do have a committee looking at how we want to approach the most vulnerable, the most medically fragile that we serve. And so that committee, my understanding, is led by Brandon and Linda in terms of what assessment they're doing. And of course, as the question implies, it is paramount that we make sure that we're walking in the higher standard in those times when we should be, but yet keeping in mind that the vaccination is really still in its early stages, and we do not want to impinge on anyone's rights. So my understanding is that that team is taking a look at the programs so that we get an understanding of what population we might be working with who needs that heightened standard of requiring a vaccination from the people that serve those people. Linda or Brandon?
The only thing that, as you know, as Stephanie said, that we are really trying to look at that and understanding that the needs of our participants come first, you know, who needs what in the midst of our staffing crisis. So, you know, we are trying to work through that all together.
Yeah, no, I might add, I think that was probably clear in some other conversations, but being an experimental, as Stephanie kind of alluded to, but the vaccine and the current status it's in is just, we're being very cautious about mandates. We're looking at other providers. We're looking at the CDC recommendations, looking at our, regulatory folks. So I think we'll watch and see where people go. But again, as Linda pointed out, as well as Stephanie, we have our consumers and staff first and foremost in our minds to be safe. And that is always a challenge because there's a balance of folks who feel like it should be mandated right now, while others do not. So we are trying to do our best to balance the needs and balance the safety of both our consumers and our staff. And we do appreciate the input that you offer along the way and your patience as we work through making the right decision for our folks.
I just want to add one more piece. I just knew that Stephanie was going to say something. I just knew she was going to say this. It goes to show we aren't very different people. We don't have the same brain. I do want to say, and I can't stress enough, that there is no one answer for any of this that is I always call it, you guys know, the silver bullet to answer these things. I do think that it's important for everyone to understand that RHD is still providing all of the PPE measures. We are still providing those measures to keep everyone safe, and we all share the responsibility to ensure that we are keeping each other and our consumers safe. So I think it's important to not absolve each of us of our individual responsibility and accountability to one another and the community and the consumers, and expect that it's just someone on high in the corporation is going to keep everybody safe. I think we all have to remain vigilant, and if you're not, you have access to that PPE. You have access to those things to keep yourself and your family, your children, your loved ones, as well as our consumers safe. So I can't stress that enough, because I think that we kind of see vaccination as the only thing, and we're forgetting about some of the other measures that we've put in place that all of us have access to be accountable to and to utilize for our well-being, for our consumers' well-being, and that of our families. So I would feel remiss if we didn't continue to communicate that to everyone and not kind of just become singularly focused that there's only one right way.
Sarah, was that all the questions on your side?
No, I have a couple more. Sorry.
You have a couple more? Why don't you keep going? But I want the people to know who put questions in the chat. We see them, and as soon as Sarah is done, we will go to those.
Yep. Next one. Are we tracking if someone infected at RHD is vaccinated or not? I guess it's a question for Brian. It came in while you were giving your report, Brian.
I think that's probably me, because it really is a legal matter and a matter of law. So we are not tracking that. Once we begin to track it, we will be obligated to safe keep it in a way that will create a huge burden. So essentially, to the extent that the protocols are customized, whether you're vaccinated or not vaccinated, we've talked about it before. You're able to ask. You can ask the question, particularly as it relates to that person's status. And yes, we do understand that if you're asking someone something and you're not requiring them to prove it, that maybe they won't be truthful with you. And frankly, from the beginning of the pandemic till this very time, we've had to count on each other to care. And so that hasn't changed. We still need each other to care. You can trick someone, you can say you're vaccinated and then go without a mask, but we have to believe that that's not the type of company we work at, and that we care enough about each other to both be honest and take those precautions. For those of you who are vaccinated and you're working with people who are not, or who may not yet be comfortable being around people, we've made an adjustment in our lives, and that means we've made an adjustment in our thinking. You can also wear a mask, keep your distance, wash your hands, and disinfect. And so we're counting on each other to bring us through.
I just wanted to add really quickly. So the only thing we've been tracking so far is numbers, unless a funder is asking for something else. The most accurate numbers we have for tracking are for consumers, because it is up to our employee to, disclose yes or no if they've been vaccinated or not. I would just encourage employees and, to everyone out there, just be honest. If you want to answer this question, answer it, because it does help us get an idea of where we should, what our percentages are.
Thank you both. I have a couple more, so I'm going to keep going, Sherry. One of them I'm pulling from the chat. Can you explain why all of the programs who moved into the central office, the corporate office, have been consolidated into one corner when the rest of the office remains completely empty?
I think that one's mine too. And I saw it in the chat, and I was trying to think. It's hard for me to describe that area as a small corner. It's probably over 1,000 square feet. But with that said, the arrangement that you see now when you go into central office is not concluding that the numbers we have in the office will remain. So we have a very small but mighty staff who's responsible for arranging that office. It's led by Sean Thomas. And so one of the things that we've done is to set people up where they would reasonably be after the office is completely open. Now, the reason we did that is because if we didn't and just said, you can just go anywhere, we know we would need to move at least 2 or 3 more times. And so we really don't have the resources to have those multiple moves. Now, as I say that, I do recognize and agree. Is it likely that people will have to move at some point? Yes, but to the extent we can minimize that, we do. And also for those of you who are in the central office, if you're feeling small spaced, if you're feeling cramped up, you can spread out a bit. I think at the beginning of those programs moving in, we spoke about being able to spread out. As the hoteling desks get put into place, we want to encourage folks to come together, maybe in different work groups than they're used to working with, and mixing it up and not having people feel so committed to one space or feeling isolated. So right now, if you're in central office and you're feeling like you're in a small corner, look around. That space is huge. Feel free to spread out a little bit. If you really are unhappy and need to do a wholesale move, I would ask that you wait and that we reach out to Sean Thomas, because again, the effort is to minimize the number of times he and his very small number of folks working with him have to do a wholesale move of programs and departments. Hopefully that answers, but if not, please let me know. I can try and give additional or different information.
Someone commented in the chat, Stephanie. I don't know if you want to take a look at that, but
okay, so you moved desks closer together in this corner. Again, I'm not 100% sure that we moved desks closer. People do have fairly good latitude to kind of create the space that they want. You're not conscripted to that space. And if you are personally finding yourself having a struggle with the amount of space around you, 4,700 is a sprawling area. One of the things that we should feel good about is the openness of that space and the many options available in that space. You can reach out to me, and I come into the office once or twice a week at a minimum. And so I can come back there, and if somebody has a specific problem, take a look and see what's going on, because that space is really sprawling and there's quite a lot of room, and you are able to work around in your footprint. So some people have formed themselves into pods. Some people have, more of a space in the middle. So there are a lot of imaginative ways that we can approach it, and we are welcoming ideas and imaginative ways to approach the space. Very much encouraging that. And I see Alicia in the chat makes an excellent suggestion, as she often does. And that is, if you are on a team that you feel that you're not in optimal space, or you feel cramped up in a small corner, please do reach out to your manager and director, because as is intimated in the question, at times the way you're arranged has been at the request of a manager or director. And so that is typically going to be the best first place to make an inquiry. Thanks, Alicia.
Thank you, Stephanie and Alicia. So I have one more that I'm going to ask. This is particularly about working from home, what we were talking about a little while ago. The person asked, if we are fully able to work from home, can we request to continue to do so going forward? If some can, we should all be able to. Just because the manager feels it's okay to come back, I don't agree.
I'm gonna let Alicia take the first part, and then I'll take the second part. This is like a legal HR question.
Again, I think that, if some can, all can. Again, I think I would encourage everyone to just for 1 second, remember that each of our departments and or programs and or service lines, they have all very different responsibilities. And even within like say admin as an example, each of the departments are very different. And so everyone does not have the same ability because of the nature of their work. And I think it's easy to forget that and kind of only look at our own work. But I would imagine, I'll use, one example. I would imagine that some of the documents, the government documents that my teams receive, there are employees across the corporation who would not want those documents sitting in our mailboxes for months at a time because everybody's working remotely. So I'm just using examples to just kind of help everyone and encourage everyone to think about the fact that not all teams provide the same support and or work. And so all very valuable. Some can be done in hybrid, some can be done fully remote, and some can't be done remote at all. And so we have to be able to remain flexible to understanding that. But I will encourage that within a team, within the same function, that there should be consistency in that approach in terms of how that gets managed and how that gets worked out. So we do encourage consistency within the same role and team and function, but recognize that across teams, there are nuances and differences within the nature of people's work that a lot of us sometimes may not realize or understand, because we know our work, but we may or may not know the work of everyone else to the same level of intimacy and expertise that we know our own. So just encouraging that one size fits all, to discourage that one size fits all thinking.
And so Alicia also did touch on a little part of the legal piece. So the first part of that, I would almost ask us to conceive of that in the opposite way to that stated. In other words, please know that just because one group can stay home does not mean another group can stay home. And so from a legal risk perspective, just looking for consistency across job types. So if you are, I'll use the teams that I work with. If you're a member of the property team and we say that everyone in property or that property managers need to come into the office, then you just want to be consistent across that team and not create exceptions and one-off rules based on individual needs within a team. And so what we look to is the business unit head. I don't think that I know how to run a payroll department, so I don't know how much they need to be in or need to be out. Would count on those directors and then those directors' leadership to make that business decision. So you're allowed to meet the needs of a business. And in order to meet the needs of the business, if one director says this team doesn't have to come in or can come in once a week, once a quarter, whatever that is, as long as it's consistently applied across that business type, that's the way that we're figuring that out. And that is consistent with the law and consistent with, as Alicia just shared, HR best practice.
Great, thank you, Alicia and Stephanie and Sarah. I want to encourage people. Sarah.
I have one more.
Okay.
I just got it, sorry. Or at least just saw it, I'm sorry. This is, I wonder what measures are in place when others on your team or in your work area do not wear masks or take precautions. This has been an age-old question.
It is. I appreciate the question because we obviously do struggle and we want to make sure we keep everybody safe. So accountability is the name of the game, right? So we need to make sure, number one, I would encourage you to have some peer pressure, meaning you model good behaviors to your peers. You, in instances where you should be wearing a mask, you do so. Good hand washing, other things that you can do to model good behavior, not getting up close to someone's face, etc. Respecting personal space, those kinds of things. Number two, if you encounter those folks who are not modeling with you, who are not exercising good change approach after you model and give a little peer pressure, certainly let your supervisor know directly. And I'm guessing that the folks asking may have already done that as well. So it is up to that supervisor to address those staff. If you continue to see that, please escalate it. We would ask you to escalate it up leadership because we do want to make sure that we are responding to those concerns and that we're keeping our staff and consumers safe at all times. So do not hesitate to escalate. If you feel like your supervisor is not addressing that with staff, we would want to know about it to try to do our best, because it's not just you and the folks there directly. It's likely that those individuals may be coming into contact with others around them and having the same ill-informed procedures, which puts everyone at risk. So we would encourage you to please let us know, and we will do our very best to address those issues.
Thank you, Sarah. You're for now? Okay. So I am going to encourage one more time to people to put any further questions in the chat. I am going to pass it to Christy to just give us a quick bit of information about Helping Hands. And then I'm just going to take a moment to read this comment. The second half, just referencing that the scientific evidence behind the efficacy and safety of the vaccine is incredibly strong. So thank you for that reminder. And Christy, I'm going to pass it to you.
Thanks, Sherry. Hey, everybody. I just wanted to do a quick reminder about Helping Hands. Helping Hands runs on the RHD fiscal calendar, so July 1 to June 30th. So if you or someone you work with was using their sessions, they have to reach out to me so I could create a new client number for this new year. I sent out a flyer, I think one day last week. If anybody missed it, email me, I'll send it back. Forward it to anybody multiple times, just so we get the word out that you need to start again. Sessions begin July 1st and you can't carry over what you didn't use, but we are back in action, and I'm getting a lot of calls, and that's a really good, strong point that people are reading their emails and they see that we are supporting them and that we value them and that support is available all the time. So just pass it on. Thanks, Sherry.
Thanks, Christine. Do you want to put your email in the chat? I know you usually do, but always good to have that reference. All right, so I don't see any more questions in the chat. We certainly want to encourage you to send them between meetings. Particularly ones about the variants, so we can ask our FPCN colleagues to be prepared to answer those at our next town hall. And with that, let me pass it to Marco.
Thanks, Sherry. And thank you everyone for spending some time today with us and asking great questions and sharing some great information. Obviously, as our conversation has surfaced today, we continue to experience a new normal, new scenarios, and some old, that we need to continue to work through together and figure out ultimately how we're going to respond and work together to address the concerns that are in front of us, whether it be in the short term or long term. So I ask all to keep the questions coming, and don't hesitate. It is part of being informed. And I would also ask the folks stay alert, so that way the questions surface as you are experiencing what's around you. So we all can, my final point, continue to be safe, not only ourselves, but the folks that we support, as well as our families. So we have another meeting scheduled 2 weeks from now. So if we look at our calendars, that would be on August 2nd at 12:30 to 2 o'clock. And right now we're going to maintain our bi-weekly meetings until we see a need a need not to continue with that schedule. So if for some reason we decide that a meeting is not necessary to continue to communicate current information and keep you all informed, we will let you know, so that way you can repurpose the time and use the time for other immediate needs and other concerns. So with that, again, I thank you all for participating today, and stay well. Have a great day, everyone.